Let's go ahead and move into this next category. It's really more focused on your finances, but I think it's going to be applicable for many people that are maybe new to the financial independence path, and that is dealing with debt. Where I don't have the luxury of really thinking about the other side. I'm still buried in debt right now, and I just found this. What do my 1% actions, my 1% improvements, what should I be considering? So, Brad, I'll let you start.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, if you're in debt, I think this actually comes back to the very first action you should take when you first find the concept of FI, which is you got to sit down and you have to be honest with yourself, right? You need to say, like, where am I today? Right. And it's not beating yourself up about things in the past, but it's about taking action to make yourself better, right? Truly that 1% better. So it's all right, what do I owe? Who do I owe? How much do I owe? What is my current like income statement look like, right? How much am I making and how much am I spending every month? If that's negative, if that's in the red, you've got an emergency on your hands, right? And you need to fix that. And that kind of goes hand in hand with stop using your credit cards, right? Like we are not the anti-credit card place here. Obviously, Jonathan, we talk, one of our major kind of life strategies is using travel rewards points that come from credit cards, but that's for people who have a handle on it, right? Clearly, that's a totally different ballgame. But for people who are in debt and continue to shovel themselves deeper, right? Like you need to stop. You need to stop using your credit cards. You need to figure out, hey, what does this look like? What do I have to do? What can I do this month to cut some expenses? Maybe earn some more money. How can I get at least to a point where I'm not adding to my debt? So I don't know. That to me is just like the overriding starting point here. But obviously then you can move on from there with like real strategies on how to tackle that.
And that really does get, once we are in that place, now we're looking at figuring out, what is that strategy? Is it a debt snowball? Is it a debt avalanche? Are these new terms that you don't even know about? Let's dive down that rabbit hole and find out, is there a way that we could optimize even our debt repay off? And you could get even more complex and say, are there more advanced strategies? Like, I have a bunch of credit card debt that's very high interest. Are there any, credit card zero balance transfer strategies out there that I could layer on top of this? You probably wouldn't start there. You're going to start with, what is my debt? How long will it take me to pay it off? How should I approach this? But, this is something, Brad, maybe you could think about that episode that we did with the debt-free guys, where they really talked about that additional complexity as another layer to this. So I'll let you come back to that. But even all of that implies that you're working with the credit system. And for many people that find themselves in this situation, they're coming from this hair on fire scenario. They have bad credit. So, credit, for better or worse, is something, it seems to be an operating structure for the world that we all live in. And those that have good credit tend to have access to better rates and prices throughout, all of their purchasing habits over time. So it would probably be in all of our best interest to understand, what is that score? How is it comprised? How can I improve it and get on a plan to improve your credit score?
Yeah, the credit score is a big one. It really is. But yeah, like you said, you need to get to that point of stability. And for a lot of people, the credit score, that is going to increase over months and years. And it's just a matter of doing the right things, right? It's paying on time and in full every single month, never missing a payment. I think there's a lot of just unforced errors. It's, hey, I didn't make that payment on time because I was lazy, or I missed it, or I didn't have a system set up, right? I didn't have a system set up to auto pay this because, hey, maybe at that point I didn't have any money in the bank and I had to worry about, oh no, am I getting my paycheck on the 14th of the month and this credit card bill was due 2 days later, but maybe I got paid, like all these things. Like when you're coming from a place of stability into strength financially, right? Then you can make decisions based on, hey, how can I make this easy? Right? At the heart of this, a lot of it is based on simplicity. How do I set up a system? Like I'm never going to miss a credit card payment because I have it on auto pay.
That is I don't see that on this list. We should probably add it. That is a massive 1% improvement that's like locked and loaded once you do it. So I genuinely, Brad, because until we really discussed this, it wasn't on my radar as well that I could literally check that button. It's not something that I think comes by default when you sign up for a card. Make sure people understand what that means practically and why they need to do that today.
Yeah, and thanks. I'm sorry to gloss over that because it's not obvious. But when you sign up for a credit card, let's say it's with American Express or Chase, I have, a number of cards from them, and I just go into the payments area and I'm able to set up an auto pay. And you log in, you put in your, very securely, obviously put in your checking account information, and they just pull the money out on whatever the due date is for that credit card. And you can actually specify, like, let's say, for instance, you were someone, I'm not advocating this, obviously. I'm advocating paying in full every month in a perfect world. But for people who can only pay the minimum or can only pay a certain amount, you can set up even the amount that you auto pay. I just click pay full statement balance, and that happens every month on the exact same date. And it is so easy to set up. It takes 5 minutes. And again, that's one of those things we say front load the sacrifice, right? Like jokingly here, the sacrifice is 5 minutes to set this up, but you took that extra 5 minutes and you never have to think about it again. You never have to think about, oh, do I need to log in to pay this? Do I need to write a check and mail this off, right? Like it's just done. So I think anytime you can set up a system, and that's certainly, Jonathan, that's a much larger point in terms of probably all of this 1% better. It's like, how can you set up systems so that you can't fail, right?
Totally agree. That's a big one. And I think a lot of people, you could have that done today and you may never have had that before. It's just, it's do it. All right, we're going to move into emergency fund savings. And I want to actually change the term here slightly as we roll into it, because there is, yes, having an emergency fund or having access to funds that you can use for, things that life throws at you. But many people many people are starting out, they don't even have $1,000 that doesn't have, 3 or 4 names attached to it of where it needs to go. And if you do not have $1,000 to your name, you don't need an emergency fund. You need a crisis fund. You need to have $1,000 that doesn't have a bill attached to it that you could draw on if you need it for something at a moment's notice. It's a huge priority. Now, once you have that $1,000, now maybe we start talking about having an emergency fund and where that emergency fund needs to be. And a couple strategies. Here's an interesting one. If this is your first year really getting started with us, most people that are just starting to pay attention to their finances are going to get a tax refund. And what an opportunity, instead of buying your next vacation, to use that to take care of the crisis fund and put something, into some investments, into some savings. And then here's how you can get 1% better. Do whatever you can not to get a tax refund the following year. And Brad, I'll give this back to you because I know as an accountant, this is something that, as a former accountant, this is something that just never made sense to you. And it seems to make sense to everybody else. So I'll let you stop here. Why would we want to not get a tax refund going forward?
Yeah. This is counterintuitive for a lot of people, right? Because for most people who can't save money, don't save money, the only kind of forced savings they have is that big tax refund that they get every year, a couple $1,000, whatever it may be. And it almost seems akin to free money, right? Like, oh, the government is just giving me money back. Here's my tax refund. It's this magical thing. But that's your money. That's your money that you have withheld from your paycheck, every single paycheck or pay period for the entire year. And you've been using that. Basically, that's your tax withholding that offsets against whatever your tax liability is. That's the actual tax you owe. It's not that withholding, because just as a thought experiment, you could theoretically withhold 100% of your money, right? Like that doesn't mean that's what you actually owe the government. That's just the amount that you decided to send them to hold on to offset against that money. So long story short, you really don't want a big tax refund. That's not ideal at all, because what that means is the government has been holding that money for you for potentially over a year in some cases, right? From let's say your January paycheck from the prior year all the way through April 15th. And you're not earning any interest on that. You're not doing anything productive with that. You're not investing in the stock market. You're not investing it wherever, right? Like the opportunity cost of that is potentially big, right? So now, again, this is all predicated on once you're following the path to FI and you have a savings rate, you're not going to just magically blow that extra money on garbage, right? It's going to go into savings each paycheck. So for someone who's financially responsible, you don't want a big tax refund. It doesn't make any sense. So the ideal, Jonathan, we've joked about this before, right? The ideal tax return is plus or minus $100. So either, can you get in that range of I owe between 100 to getting a refund of 100? It's really, really, really hard to do. But
If we ever had some sort of like gamification pathway to financial independence, like an app or something like that, it would be a place where you could self-report if you got inside that number, and there would be some gamification points on the other side, because that's serious,
yeah,
a pro level tip, as you start to progress through this journey.
yeah. And it is hard to change your mindset on that. There's no question about it. But yeah, a tax refund is not your friend. It's just your money that you should have had all along. So don't think about it as free money.